Hello, my friends. I wanted to start today with a couple of uh, things that I read. One that Gay shared to me, and one that I read. So, what Gay shared with me was that at Stanford, they've decided that they've invented a new thing to deal with depression and anxiety, and they call it somatic grounding. And we went like, hello. Part of the issue of being pioneers is that they're, like 45 years ago, we sort of invented somatics for, our generation. So here's another thing that really applies to what we're exploring together. So there's a professor, Dr. Laurie Santos, who has taught the most popular course at Yale that's ever been taught. Like 3 million people took her course in the first year that she offered it. And the key that she has discovered to lifelong happiness is a genuine human connection. So it's not achievement, it's not money, it's not stuff, it's a felt connection. And I thought, yay, that's what we're up to. And, at the basis of all of the things that we're exploring, the loop of awareness and all of the integrity cards are to make you available to receive, to really soak in and enjoy a felt human connection. And one thing that I've noticed is I've been practicing my loop of awareness and particularly presence connect play is that when I turn my attention to anybody, including my cat, I turn my attention and I can tell that they feel it. So I'm in the store, I turn my attention, and somebody will turn. Even I've done it in my car. As I'm, stopped at a traffic light. I'll look at the person next to me. There's this sense of, something's happening here. Something is like flies. What is this? So our to know that there's something that you can do with your consciousness, with your attention, that will create more and more happiness for you. And that was very reassuring to me because there's so many different things that people are coming up with, and different techniques and cold plunges and all kinds of things that you can do. And the very most basic, you don't need any special tools, you don't need any special really training. It's really, for me, the important thing is instead of looking, what I do now with my loop of awareness is noticing. So because we're so visual, and especially in the last few years with social media, and the eyeball extraction that's going on in the general sphere, when you let yourself notice and land. So I want to have you notice something going on in your body and let yourself land there. And then what I notice is when I notice and I land, something wants to move. And it may be a movement in my body. It may be a movement of energy. I might have a sensation start moving, but our attention creates flow. And our lack of attention, I think, is one of the big things that creates stuckness, and a sense of being sludgy. And so I want you to experiment with noticing, landing, and then go with the movement that wants to happen. And then when you turn outward, you can still notice and land. And then I often find something out there starts to move. It may be just a shimmer, or it may be a sense of something opening up. But as I am circulating my attention, what then tends to happen is more and more flow. So I'd love to have you just practice for a couple of minutes as the play for loop of awareness today is, what's the experience of noticing? So for me, earlier in my relationship with Gay, noticing meant I was going to be criticized. So if I were noticed, I'd cringe. So when you notice, do you contract or expand? So intending to let yourself notice and expand to what you're sensing, and then expanding the movement of that will begin to break up the old patterns of fear, which are all about contraction. So the other thing that I've found really valuable is that if I do find myself contracting, then I just add in a little fear melter. So I'll add in my favorite. Wiggling is my favorite and easiest for me to get to. Sometimes my feeling my feet, especially that I can now feel my feet. my my senses are coming back. So when I notice and then I follow whatever movement wants to happen, I'm really increasing the flow. And if I get stuck, add fear melters. So noticing, landing, going with. I often find too, if I've landed successfully, my breath will expand. So it may not be something that I notice in my muscles or in the flow in my blood, but there will be something that begins to flow that I can turn my attention to. So the you're noticing. I invite you to notice you're noticing. So almost always our noticing is about what's wrong. And that's kind of the default position of our brain, is to keep things out, but also to notice what you don't want to do or you don't want to give your attention to. So noticing, one thing that just occurs to me is you could add a to your noticing, because the will shift you out of the what's wrong and what do I have to do about it. So for a couple of rounds, I'd love for you to notice with a and I can feel an inner smile as I do that. There's this kind of just the sweetness of the hum really opens curiosity, but I think it also opens a connection with you. So if you take charge of your own connection and you are loving yourself is really letting yourself be in the same space with. If you notice and
Cheaper
you
and
let
healthier
yourself,
than field roast.
if you be with yourself in that noticing, the creates a reservoir of loving yourself that you can draw on, but that also allows you to feel that sweet connection with you, so that you're not trying to get it always from out there, which is what we're habituated to do. Society wants us to get our validation of, how do I look? Am I okay? Do I fit in, by noticing out there, and noticing out there with longing, and then noticing in here with criticism. Like, oh, I don't look as pretty. I'm fatter than she is, or the that comparison, which keeps us continuing to search rather than settling into and enjoying the sense of felt connection. So if you make just one shift in the way that you move, if you let yourself wiggle when you're noticing, and you, instead of just freezing and then letting your eyeballs do all the work, you're going to be opening up just a much richer experience of being alive. I keep returning to the rapture of being alive. Just the actual experiences. I'm recovering from long COVID. Like this morning, I walked into the bedroom and I could smell. There's a particular spray that we use that's a Dr. Hauschka that we've used for years and years. And I walked in and I could smell Dr. Hauschka that Gay had sprayed on himself in the bathroom a little bit before, and and just the joy, my little cells were going, just dancing with the oh, there's a smell that is going on here that I missed for like a year and a half. And so the opportunity to keep expanding your aliveness can really be as simple as noticing with curiosity, but noticing and landing and then seeing what wants to move. I think that's really the key because it's so clear that movement, the movement of circulation, the movement of your blood, the movement of all those electrical impulses in you, that's life. And if you bring your consciousness to that, you're getting to participate in your own aliveness rather than having it happen to you. So that I felt excited about sharing those things with you today. And then also, you can probably tell that I am feeling much better. And yes, so this yeah, it's very exciting to be discovering. I've recreated myself at least twice. In movement, when I broke my hip, it knocked the movement out of me and I actually couldn't walk. So I had to learn how to walk all over again. And then when I got long COVID, I literally wiped out my quad so I couldn't walk. So I've been discovering what is it that creates movement? What is it that generates movement? And the closest thing that I've discovered that I think would be of benefit to you is bringing your consciousness into your experience. So whether that's an itch on your finger, or a kind of a achy, you bring your consciousness to it and something will move. And then you get to be creating your aliveness moment to moment. So I invite you into that experiment, and I appreciate you being there. Many of you that have been here for weeks and weeks and months and years as we've been experimenting with together. And so my sense is that the big benefit is that you get to enjoy more and more connection, not only with you, but with anybody that you come into contact with. So let's show the card for today. This month I'm exploring, or maybe a little bit more than a month, we did agreements first, and I want to focus on emotional literacy. So I'll have more to say about this, but I'd love for you to let your, I just look at this and I feel happy. So let your noticing go in, you're noticing with a and then bring your attention back to you and noticing how your body is responding to noticing out there, and what happens inside you that you can notice and be with and move with, and then letting that loop continue of noticing with the and where your attention goes, and then noticing in you. And then as you're doing that, I want to read to you first the sentence. I welcome emotions and sensations as they move through me. I welcome emotions and sensations as they move through me. In what ways can I notice what I'm actually feeling and experiencing in the moment? See, this is really a key. This is a central skill. In what ways can I notice what I'm actually feeling and experiencing in the moment? So as you're letting that loop continue of noticing, letting yourself kind of dive into the card, and then letting yourself dive into you, and noticing, like I'm loving the little fish and the little portal, at the bottom of the card. That's how I used to practice sitting on the bottom of a pool. Like if we were, we had gone swimming, I would sit at the bottom of the pool as long as I could until all of the adults would freak out and try to come. He says, I was really quite sure that that I would be able to swim and breathe underwater. So this was one of my experiments. I also thought that I could fly and went off the roof a couple of times. And so, fortunately did not hurt myself. But I think we have all of those, the soaring and the swimming and the circulating, all of that is inside of us. We have all of those critters inside of us. So the welcoming of emotions and sensations, and in what ways you can be with your experience in the moment, is so central, I think, to our human evolution right now. Let's come on back to the big group. I love this card. And if you like this card and you have the cards, I invite you to have this one out where you can look at it this week so you can just go, oh yes, we're all swimming the world. I saw a picture of the globe that turned to the side where all the water is, so there's little edges of land, but there's this giant, I think 90% of the earth is water. And interestingly enough, about 90% of us is water, is fluid. So the whole, why I'm talking about fluid is that when emotions and sensations, when you give attention to them, they flow. And it's my opinion that emotions are actually sensations that flow together and have flowed together for so long that make a pattern. And I also think that emotional literacy is the most undeveloped and undervalued skill on the planet. And the one that is causing the most misery, I think, particularly for boys, and young men, because they're taught that feeling is weak, and that being strong and tough is the way to go. And what that does is just plug up your ability to flow with and to feel the nourishment of connection. So anytime that you can acknowledge, even if you don't say anything, like you're with somebody and you can tell that there's emotion going on, and you let yourself be with that in you, and then you're giving attention and being with them, that I've had the experience of people, if just with attention, I can see and feel their feeling opening up, the flow of the feeling opening up. And so learning that it's okay to feel, that emotions are, in fact, I think, the highest form of human intelligence, is being able to discern, to feel into, to be with, for example, contradictory feelings. So I can feel grateful and I can feel really pissed off at the same time. And being with those allows us to keep expanding our humanity and welcoming rather than resisting what is going on. So emotional literacy, instead of emotional, you'll see lots and lots of examples of emotional illiteracy every day. And unfortunately, a lot of those are being, it's like putting our nose in it. Our administration is the most emotionally illiterate, I think, in history. And putting that forward as a way to be. And so as you're in the fullness of your own feeling, letting yourself cry, for example, I announce to people, I'm in a class, I'm probably going to cry, and letting that be okay, to feel what you're feeling, and that you can still be connected to you and you can be connected to others as feelings are flowing, I think is one of the biggest gifts that we can give to ourselves and others. And so that's what I want to invite you into, that just also the wonderful nuances of feeling really they're like the spices of life. And for me, like being able to, my senses working, has given me just so much more of the joy of being alive, rather than, I would see food as, well, I got to eat something now because, otherwise I'm not ever going to get better. But there was no joy in it because I couldn't smell anything. So as you're cultivating your senses and being with the movement of your senses, you are going to get to feel more of the joy of being alive. Which doesn't cost a damn thing. Well, except your awareness, of course, and your consciousness, but you've got plenty of that. So let me pull up the Presence Connect play for today. We're doing, Patrick and I are doing some revisions on Presence Connect play to make it even richer. So that's going to be coming over the next few months. All right, let me give a refresh here. I love this. Okay, so presence is notice you, breath and sensations, and notice others in the room. Notice you and notice others. And that the sense of there's plenty of room for everybody allows us to be with power with, rather than almost always noticing is about, am I better or worse? It's comparison, that power over, which diminishes our ability to be with. So as you notice and notice you and notice others, you're creating community wherever you go. And people might just like, you come through and you leave and people go, ooh, there's this sense of, ooh, I feel more happiness, or wow, what happened? So you can be that, that person. There was years ago, I read something from Jungian work, is the archetype of the rainmaker. And the rainmaker, wherever the rainmaker, I'm gonna cry, wherever the rainmaker shows up, there's a flow of aliveness and green. And so you can be that person. And it doesn't have to require any sacrifice on your part, because as you're noticing you get more flow of aliveness and everybody gets to benefit. Oh, and we get, they want us to do, the app today wants us to do more looping, because Connect is also loop and shift attention. So the shifting, when you notice you and then notice others in the room, that I consider that a kind of a sweeping, I'm using my attention to kind of include, and then the looping and shifting attention may be a little bit more of a focus on, is there something inside that's wanting my attention? And when I give it my attention, it shifts. I've also found that, and there's also research on this, of course, which I love. We didn't have to do it, and now there's research that when you describe what's actually going on, you create more cellular aliveness. So you don't have to make it any different. So like if you feel sad and you give attention to that and you notice, oh, I feel sad, or I'm feeling heaviness, or a sense of, oh, then it shifts, because your attention creates flow. So I'm loving that research is, although sometimes it feels very basic, is beginning to play. And for play, it says do the opposite. And so very often when someone is stuck, they try to make it go away, like suppressing it. And what I found is if I let myself just play, so if I feel like, whoa, what's the opposite of that? I might just go, and then I can go back to, and then I go, and then something starts to shift. So if I'm mad at somebody, I'm going to just, well, if I weren't mad, what might, oh, I could appreciate him. No, I'm really mad. No, I could appreciate him. And I start doing the opposite, then something starts to shift. And it also allows us to be able to include opposites in our being, so we become more and more dimensional. which we are. So that's the play for today. And so appreciate all of you being here in the late August. We're in another heat wave here in Southern California. And that's how it is today in the world. So please stay and play as long as you like. And I look forward to being with you next time. Mwah. Take care.